be alive with one else to be back.
Good evening, everybody. It's Monday, April 21st, 2025, and this is a regular meeting of Moscow City Council.
All right, please stand if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you.
Look at this special again.
Tonight, we have a couple of proclamations, and the first of which is the Arbor Day proclamation that we do just about every year here, at least since I've been mayor, we have. So the Arbor Day proclamation. Whereas in 1872, Julius Sterling Morton, who would become the Secretary of Agriculture under President Grover Cleveland, proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting trees. And whereas the resulting holiday, Arbor Day, was first observed in that state with the planting of more than 1 million trees. And whereas Arbor Day is now recognized throughout the nation and the world, reminding us that one person's initiative can make a lasting and meaningful difference. And whereas the City of Moscow and Moscow Tree Commission are committed to a community forestry program that supports a safe, healthy, and attractive urban forest. And whereas trees are a renewable resource that yield fruit and nuts for food and profit, wood for construction, fuel for warmth, paper products, and a wide variety of other goods and materials. And whereas, when properly selected, planted in the right places, and tended appropriately, trees tend to increase property values, add beauty, enhance economic vitality of business districts, cut heating and cooling costs, and provide a buffer from traffic. And whereas trees intercept stormwater runoff and reduce erosion, provide clean air and water, produce oxygen, slow climate change by absorbing carbon dioxide, promote pollinators, provide habitat for wildlife, and moderate air temperature. And whereas a healthy urban forest can bring a sense of vibrancy or respite, adventure or calm, escape or contentment, and the connection with wild nature amidst asphalt and concrete. And whereas Arbor Day reminds us of the timeless observation of its founder, J. Sterling Morton, that each generation takes the earth as trustees. And whereas, to celebrate Arbor Day in Moscow, the City of Moscow and the Moscow Tree Commission have partnered with the Paradise Creek Regional High School and the Rotary Club of Moscow to plant 3 redbud and 2 tricolor beech trees in Berman Creekside Park on April 25th from 1:15 p.m. to 2:15 p.m. Now, therefore, I, Art Betke, the mayor of the City of Moscow, do hereby proclaim April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in the City of Moscow, and I urge all citizens to support the planting of trees to promote the well-being of this and future generations. So, Representative David Schott. Congratulations.
Is this the least awkward time to open the bar?
Give me your-
Oh, look at
It's a
this.
penguino, not a ho-ho, but you can have it.
Oh.
I'm not joking.
No, he'll need it.
Mayor Betke, members of council, thank you for having us tonight. On behalf of the Moscow Tree Commission, I would like to invite you all to our Arbor Day celebration this Friday, again at Berman Creekside Park from 1:15 to 2:15. I would note parking is very limited at Berman Creekside Park, so if you have an alternate mode of transportation to get there, we certainly encourage that. And for our general public, in the spirit of Arbor Day, if you have the ability to do so, I would encourage you to plant a tree this spring to help celebrate Arbor Day. So thank you.
Thank you, David. Also, in keeping with a bit of history, we have the Earth Day proclamation tonight as well. Earth Day proclamation. Whereas April 22nd marks the 54th anniversary of Earth Day, a day to remember our connection to the environment, our reliance on the environment, and the need for environmental stewardship and activism. And whereas the first Earth Day was celebrated on April 22nd, 1970 in the United States and became recognized worldwide by 1990. And whereas it is necessary to broaden and diversify the environmental movement to achieve maximum success, and whereas the safeguarding of our air, water, and wild spaces is in everyone's responsibility, and whereas the city promotes civic participation in order to develop a sense of environmental responsibility among all citizens, and whereas local communities can do much to reverse environmental degradation and contribute to the building of a healthy society by addressing issues such as energy usage, water conservation and protection, transportation, waste prevention and reduction, and sprawl. And whereas a sustainable environment can be achieved on an individual level through educational efforts, public policy, and consumer activism campaigns, and whereas it is vital to come together and cooperate on how to achieve and defend environmental stewardship, and whereas the observance of Earth Day will highlight and focus our attention on reducing our own environmental footprint. Now, therefore, I, Art Betke, the mayor of the city of Moscow, do hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2025 to be observed and celebrated as Earth Day in the city of Moscow, a special day to remember our Earth, a day dedicated to increasing environmental awareness and to encourage action and preserve a healthy and sustainable environment and our community's quality of life into the future. And we'll hear more about Earth Day awards here coming up in a few minutes. Kelly, are you our, or is it Victoria too? Kelly Cooper, our city conservation person, and Victoria Sieber, a longtime stalwart on many committed.
Sparing nothing. There's some of that. Conservation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and have people understand them. All right, Victoria.
Well, short and sweet, off the cuff. Go Earth, or nothing else will go.
Sounded like a bumper sticker. I like it. Yeah.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Kelly Cooper, too. Next up is the consent agenda, and these are items that have been previously vetted by either the Public Works and Finance or Administrative Committee and consist of non-controversial or routine matters.
Mr. Mayor.
I was going to say, any item can be removed for separate consideration by a member of council.
I'm not interested in removing anything. I move we approve consent agenda as presented tonight.
Second.
Moved and seconded. No further discussion? Okay, Haley,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
and Bryce.
Aye.
Okay, the consent agenda is dealt with. Next up is the mayor's appointments, of which I have none tonight. After that, we come to public comment. And for the next 15 minutes in 3-minute increments, we invite people from the public to come up to the podium, state your name, area of residence, and then tell us what's on your mind, as long as it's not on tonight's agenda, nor pending before Planning and Zoning Commission, the Board of Adjustment, or involving any potential pending litigation. Do we have any takers within that?
Stevie, bring her with you. Come on. Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Stevie Steely Johnson, 1450 Mill Road, Moscow. I just wanted to invite all of you to our Earth Day celebration. It's this Saturday, April 26th from 4 to 6 p.m. at East City Park. We're having garden burgers for vegetarians and the like. We will have C&L pulled pork sandwiches. We're going to have bluegrass music, free face painting. We do have a beer garden. Come join us. Look at garbage trucks. There's going to be about 20 different nonprofits tabling at the event. So it's going to be a good time. This will be our 4th year doing it, and we get about 400 people come out to that event. So it's great. The other thing I wanted to let you know is that we are extending our hours seasonally at the solid waste processing facility. It's something we've been thinking about for a long time. We have minimum requirements, obviously, that we have to be open, but just to better service our residents and especially our businesses in the summer, we're going to be extending our hours from closing at 4:30 to close at 5:30 p.m. from April 1st through October 31st. And that will just line up with the extended household hazardous waste hours. So thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Stevie. Other takers? Okay, hearing none, we move on. And next up are the Earth Day Awards. And I'll be conducting these from over at yon podium to save a lot of back and forthing. Sure. There you go. Okay, first up, we have Earth Day Awards. First up is Heather Heward, who was nominated for her dedication to wildland health and for creating impactful education on the subject of fire use. Not only does she teach both college students and professionals the importance of fire, but her expertise has also been used locally to slow the spread of the 2021 fire on Moscow Mountain due to her initiation of prescribed burns up there. Very important stuff. Heather? You out there?
I don't see your,
No. We'll get that presentation off to her. Next up is Suvia Judd, who was nominated for her promotion and the use of sustainable farming practices, as well as dedication to the Palouse ecosystem and the pollinators that call it home. She's played and continues to play a vital role in the implementation of the annual Pollinators Summit. So I hope we have Suvia here. So, yes. So. Absolutely, yes, we invite you. I hope people do.
She wants to say a few words. That's good.
Well, this is exciting. Thank you very much. I'm here representing the Board of Rural Roots, which is Deborah Berman and Susan Flugel and myself at the present time, as well as all the prior boards and founders of Rural Roots in the past. And also I'm representing the Pollinator Working Group, which puts on the Pollinator Summit and is always ready to take on other projects. It was created 6 years ago, instigated by Deborah Berman, bringing together herself and Iris Mays, a county extension, who had put on at least one pollinator summit, and Pat Rathman, who had put on at least one or two pollinator summits. And Deborah said, let's bring all the groups together with Rural Roots and all the other groups that are doing stuff for pollinators and work on pollinator projects together. So far, our main consistent project this year, 2005, was our 6th annual Pollinator Summit. Iris was not part of our working group this year, but I want to acknowledge the 5 previous years that she's hosted it. And I want to super acknowledge Kelly Cooper for stepping in as being the logistics coordinator for the Pollinator Summit this year with pretty short notice in October, and she did a super job. I really want to say that while this award is coming to me, I feel that there's always people whose faces stand out, and then there are all the people who are in the background doing stuff. And so the rest of the people on the Pollinator Working Group are Kelly, myself, Deborah Berman, Luc LeBlanc with the Bar Entomology Museum at the University of Idaho, and Joan Falwell with the Palouse Prairie Foundation, which also gave us a nice grant, so we were able to use the 1912 Center this year. So I was going to bring having dutifully looked up Google to make sure that I was right that pansies were good for early pollinators. I was going to bring a pansy to every city council member, but Spence was sold out. So I thought about stopping at the co-op and getting everybody a package of some good pollinator plant. And I thought, no, that might feel like a burden. If I give everybody seeds, they're going to feel like they have to do something. Don't cut your dandelions, eat them and leave them for the bees. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suvia, and thank you too, Kelly.
She can talk a little longer.
Next up is Inland North Waste. Inland Northwest was nominated for their role in providing important waste collection services that help Moscow residents reduce their impact on the planet. Some of these services include e-waste recycling, plastic bag recycling, yard waste composting, tire recycling, metal salvage, and recycling hazardous waste, and the proper disposal of all of that. And also waste education, and as we've just heard, celebration coming up in City Park, courtesy Inland Northwest. So representatives for Inland Northwest, please come up.
And the
The
kids.
Johnsons. Yes.
Yeah, everybody. Oh, yeah.
Okay, who wants to hold this one up?
Nice. Nice.
Only we had a garbage truck.
Just looking at art.
That's the age of my kids.
So cute.
I just want to say that that was a really nice acknowledgement of the work that we do, but it's at the pleasure of our city council and what our community wants. You know, we have a lot of access to our hazardous waste facility at the solid waste processing facility. A lot of other communities only have collection days like once or twice a year. It's really accessible because our city wants it to be that way. So really, y'all should just be patting yourselves on the back for the good work and the good service that you're providing, you know, the taxpayers of Moscow and also of Latah County. All of you are doing really great things. So thank you.
Thank you.
Stevie. Stevie.
Okay, next up, we have Jocelyn Watson, who was nominated for her outstanding water conservation education and outreach while serving as an AmeriCorps volunteer with the Palouse Basin Aquifer Committee. The relationship she developed continues to play a role for PBAC in furthering water conservation through education and outreach. Please.
Hi, thank you so much for this. I really appreciate the acknowledgement of all of the work. So for those of you who don't know about the Palouse Basin Aquifer Committee, I really would appreciate if you look it up and learn more about your local water supply. It's really important to have well-educated citizens that know more about their natural resource management that's going on. I'd also like to definitely thank Kelly Cooper. She has been a mentor to me and has inspired a lot of the work that I continue to do, so I appreciate her. I would also like to thank anyone who has served as an AmeriCorps alum before. Each year, more than 200,000 AmeriCorps members serve communities across all 50 states and U.S. territories. And since its inception more than 30 years ago, more than 1.5 million volunteers have served communities across the United States and those areas. And it's really important that we continue the legacy of AmeriCorps and continue the legacy of serving our country. Serving your country, because that's what AmeriCorps people are doing. They're serving their country, serving their communities. So I ask that everybody, if you know an AmeriCorps member, if you see an AmeriCorps member, please support them to the fullest extent. Thank you.
Thank you, Jocelyn. And again, thank you, Kelly. Last up, we have the Latah County Steelhead Habitat Recovery Project at Nora Creek. This project was nominated for its efforts to aid steelhead recovery. The Nora Creek project, one of several on various creeks that feed into the Potlatch River, included remeandering the creek, creating a faux beaver dam pool, gravel spawning beds, and shading. The project also serves as an educational stop in the Idaho Forest Products Commission annual tour and through K through 12 teachers. So, do we have a representative from the Nora Creek project? Bring as many as you want.
Yeah, bring them all.
Yay.
Just move back there and get a picture.
Oh, that's great.
Good job, Lori.
Oh, sure. I'll go first. Well, just thanks to Art and the council for this. I'm Dave Huggins. I'm the chair of the Lake Tassau Water Conservation District and have been chair for quite a while. But this is in recognition of fish restoration habitat. But of course, when we do that, so much else happens in terms of bringing to life all kinds of biology, right? So when we go in and look at the biological diversity in these areas that we rehabilitated, it is amazing to see the response that nature gives. And I'll do a big shout out to the district in terms of Ken Stinson as well. He's in the background here. He's going to be retiring soon. And from that standpoint, he's had a long legacy of a conservation district that is kept, I would say, well under the radar in terms of public kinds of recognition, but at the same time brings in over $1.5 million a year in terms of competitive grants to this county, and which serves to employ people and to do this work, this wonderful work. So I just wanted to say a big shout out to him and others in the district from the standpoint of what we accomplish here. And thank you so much for the recognition. And I know Brenda has a few words to say too. Much of the credit, of course, goes to her.
Oh, no. Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for this award. It's nice to be acknowledged. We really appreciate it. And, you know, these efforts are really truly a team effort. And I really want to give a shout out to our field crew and to all the other staff and Ken Stinson, who's been with us for so long. And I really want to acknowledge the work of our partners, our private landowners in Latah County. We would not be able to do the work that we do without them. And just the rest of the dedicated staff. And thanks again for the recognition. We appreciate it.
So that takes us to the end of this year's Earth Day Awards. And one more round of applause for all the people who are such worthy recipients. Okay, on to the less riveting portion of our program tonight.
That was fun.
Yes.
Now we're going to talk about
Yes.
janitorial
Now
contracts.
we're-
Different kind of fun.
Different.
Now we're going to talk about consideration of janitorial bid results from David Schott. You don't have to rush off if you don't want to hear about how much janitorial services.
Probably do want to run.
Oh, no, that should clear the room, actually.
It's gonna.
It's so interesting, though. I love the minutia of it. I guess that's why we're sitting over here.
Yep, it worked. David Schott, please.
Mary Betke, members of council, thank you for having me tonight. Again, this is a consideration of the janitorial services bid results. The city published an invitation to bid for custodial services for certain buildings on February 15th and February 22nd. A bid opening took place on March 5th of this year, at which time we received 5 bids for the various modules.
Earth Day after party in the hallway.
Man,
Yeah, very excited.
crazy.
Just a little background, the city of Moscow grouped all our buildings into 7 modules for the purposes of bidding. This was done because we've got a lot of square footage and we really want to kind of get multiple people with different modules, encourage some of our smaller custodial services to have an opportunity to bid as well. So bidders were allowed to bid on one module, multiple modules, or all the modules. The city would then enter into a professional services agreement with each successful bidder for each module. So the proposed agreements will commence on October 1st of 2025, so a little bit of a time, but extend through September 2028. The reason we do this is to prepare our fiscal year 26 budget. So that's why we put these bids out a little bit early, although services won't begin until October 1st. This is a breakdown of the module. So our current 3-year agreements that are in place, all the portions in white are existing. The portions that changed for this upcoming 3-year is the remodeled city shop, which we're anticipating October 1st of 26, and the new Parks and Fleet shop, which we're anticipating March 1st of 2026. We also added our parks restrooms, which we have a separate agreement currently in place right now for those, but we wrap that into this bid package, bid schedule for bidding. So the bid tally is rather large. It is in the packet for everybody. But as far as the bid analysis, so the chart on the top right of the screen is our overall bid. So our current 3-year term through 2025, that'll get us through September 30th of this year. We're currently paying $470,000 for that complete package. For fiscal year 26 through 28, we're at $533,000, $81.49. That's a 13% increase. But I would note this really isn't apples to apples. It's really apples to orange. The reasons being for that is the new police station in our first year of our last contract, or the agreement we're in now, the first 7 months, it was still under construction, so it wasn't being cleaned, and so it only had 5 months on it. And then the existing shop will be remodeled, and then the janitorial services will begin on the remodeled shop, which does have a significant square footage increase. And then the new Parks and Fleet shop will be coming online as well, so that adds quite a few square feet. And then the parks restrooms, as I noted earlier. So when we look at the table at the bottom of this slide, that's more apples to apples. So what we've got here is this our current service, each of the modules, then our low bidder, and then this is the price paid basically through September of this year, and this will be the price we're paying in October 1. So percentages were up and down for the various different modules, but overall we are seeing a decrease when we look at overall apples to apples. So the bid results, we are recommending Creative Cleaning Connections as they were the low bidder for module 1, 6, and 7 in the amount of $203,513.49 for a 3-year agreement. EVCAR, Service Master Building Maintenance, was low bidder for module 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the amount of $329,568, again for a 3-year proposed agreement. With that, I'd take any questions or comments from council.
Julie can go for it.
I just have one question. Has the city, I think I remember from last year that the city has looked at bringing this in-house too. Is that something that was considered this time?
No, the city looked at this a few years ago, if I recall. It didn't pencil out, so it was substantially more expensive to bring it in-house.
Two things. One, the Public Works and Finance Committee heard this, and because it's such a large amount, we wanted to bring it to the full council for discussion, just for context. David, one thing that I am just realizing, can you go back to the this one? Yeah. I just now am noticing that Viva Cleaning Company is a current provider, and then I just pulled up the side-by-side bid tally, and they did not come in as low bidders. I guess I'm curious. One thing I appreciate that we talked through last week was that by doing these things in modules, it could make it easier for smaller businesses to be able to go for a bid instead of being a team of 2 or 3 being responsible for every city building. And I'm wondering, I guess, how do I want to ask this? I guess if I remember right, it seemed like Viva Cleaning was one of the folks that came in when we were in need for contracts, and they were able to help fill this gap. And I'm a little bit sad to see them rotate off the roster. Can you help me understand if there's times where low bidders, the lowest bid isn't the only deciding factor? Like if we've been satisfied with Viva Cleaning Company, but would that be a factor? For context, I'm looking at the full bid tally, and like they are not close to being the low bidder. So I know it's also additional funding, but curious what that
Councilor Lewis, that's a great question. Currently, this is a formal bid, and so all our bidders that we're proposing as low bidders, Service Master, and Creative Cleaning Connections, and Viva, all been doing, have good service and be giving us good service. And so we would have no justification to make the argument to not go with the low bidder.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess it makes sense. It would fall under the normal RFQ process. Okay, and it's a 2-year fiscal contract, is that right?
3 years.
3-year, okay, thank you.
Gina?
I want to say thank you for explaining not only the kind of apples to oranges thing that the fiscal years and when buildings come online and that sort of thing can be kind of confusing if you're not following it. So I do appreciate that because that, in my mind, is excellent transparency. But I do also appreciate the discussion right here about it isn't a matter of not happy with. It is a matter of the low bidder.
Right.
And so I do appreciate it. It's far more complex than you would think. So thanks for walking us through that.
Thank you.
Bryce, Julia, did you have something?
I already asked.
Okay, cool. So this follows up on Haley's question. I think it was in the last year, there was maybe an issue with one of the fests or the fair and the janitorial service at the park at East City Park. So I'm curious if like, let's say the organizer of, was it the Ren Fair? Question mark?
I can't remember if it was Ren Fair or Rendezvous.
Right, but it was one of the two, and there was an issue with the bathroom at the East City Park. Would there ever be a scenario by which the organizers can directly contact the janitorial services, or should it always go through you, or just to improve communication to make sure that services are offered? Because I remember that there being some issue, and I can't remember specifically what it was. Was it
Councilor
Pride?
Blankenship, that's a good question. I don't remember all the exact details.
Okay.
So we do have the janitorial services cleaning our parks restrooms through a separate agreement. Ultimately, Parks is responsible for that. So that's something if an event organizer was unhappy with services, that would probably be something you'd go through the on-call system rather than directly contacting the janitorial service.
Bill?
If I could provide a little detail, I think there were some challenges of access to like supplies, consumable materials, toilet tissue, that kind of thing. Generally, for those events in the past, event organizers have taken on the responsibility because we don't provide janitorial services over the course of the weekend. So it's the event organizer that takes on some of that. But I think they had some difficulty getting access to resources. We have and started it with Rendezvous, where we are staffing those with a city staff member there to ensure that those high demand, high volume events, that we can make sure that everything's taken care of.
Great, thank you.
And just to add to that, Bill, there was also toilet overflow. It was at Pride and it was coming out. It wasn't, and then we had situations of not having toilet paper after that happened. And y'all take care of it, and it was great, and it was fast and timely, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. Mark?
I move that we approve the low bid from GG Gutters Incorporated, doing business as Creative Cleaning Connections, for module number 1, module number 6, and module number 7 in the amount of $203,513.49, and approve the low bid of Evcar Incorporated, doing business as Service Master Building Maintenance, for module number 2, module number 3, module number 4, and module number 5 in the amount of $329,568.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, Drew?
Aye.
Julia?
Aye.
Gina?
Aye.
Bryce?
Aye.
Haley?
Aye.
Sandra?
Aye.
Great. We've got 3-year janitorial bid coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David.
Thank you, David.
Next up is item number 6, a request for waiver of Tatuna right-of-way improvements. Bob Bevell. Hello, Bob.
Good evening. I'm here to talk to you today about the Tatuna property improvements waiver request. On March 10th, the city of Moscow received a request for waiver from Public Improvements. The request was submitted by Allison Tompkins, who's in the audience today. And that request was for a property at 933 Mountain View. Anybody who isn't familiar with the unimproved section of Fatuna, it's the green section there. Comes off of the 90-degree turn of Mountain View, goes down to the intersection of Ponderosa and Fatuna. A little bit more background. Anybody who isn't familiar with this turn, I think we've all seen this one and are familiar with it.
Best
And if
sledding
you-
hill in town.
Debatable.
And if you peek over the edge and look down, this is a photo to kind of give a representation of the elevation difference between the road, Mountain View, and the intersection at Fatuna and Ponderosa. Same, just a different perspective. The property in green is the subject property, and the property in blue is the subject property of a waiver request that was done in 2011, and I'll be talking about that a little bit later. This is the snippet of code, kind of a brief summary. This is the code that requires that anybody that wants to build, any property owner that wants to build a principal structure on their property is required to build frontage improvements and utilities in the adjacent streets adjacent to their property. This map is showing the utilities in the area. As you can see, the water line through the unimproved section of Fatuna is already built. There are a few private sanitary sewer services running through that right away, but for the most part, all the public utilities have already been constructed. So when we go and talk about the street requirements, the street frontage improvements, first thing we got to do is look at our thoroughfare plan. That tells us what kind of road we need to build. And if we zoom in on that, it shows that unimproved section of Fatuna is a proposed collector. This is a profile view showing a profile on the left being Ponderosa and Fatuna, and on the right up at the top is that curve on Mountain View. The green line is the existing ground, and there's a few proposed alignments. The blue alignment would be an alignment that would be constructed with completely AASHTO compliant road geometry. However, there are some exemptions that you can use to kind of get a little bit more curvy with the road, and that red profile there is a profile that we looked at, we considered to be the most likely profile that would be constructed, and so all of our cost estimates are based off of that red profile. At about, if you look along the bottom, you can see the stationing at about 3 plus 50 is the section where you get the greatest difference between the existing ground and that red line, and that would be about a 14-foot difference. This is the road section for a collector here in Moscow. It's 34 feet from face curb. This has 5-foot green strips and a 5-foot walk. In order to construct this within the existing 60-foot right-of-way, retaining walls would likely be required. We did look at the possibility of doing a 2-to-1 slope instead of retaining walls, which would potentially reduce the cost. However, additional slope easement would be required, and that shaded in area would be the slope easement, and you can see it would have a significant impact on the building envelope of the subject property. I was able to pull up the cost estimate from 2011. I updated the costs based on today's prices, and I estimated that the construction of the entire roadway from Ponderosa up to Mountain View would be roughly $1.5 million. The applicant would only be required to pay for construction of their half of the road for along their frontage. So 50% of that cost, and then scaled out for the 165-foot frontage, would come to roughly $255,000. The city, if we chose to pursue building that road, would need to fund the remaining 1.2 million to complete that road construction. In the application material, the applicant submitted an estimate of $107,000. That didn't take into account retaining walls and some utility relocation that would need to be done because of the extreme height difference between the existing ground and the proposed street surface finish grade. A little bit more additional information to consider. That previous property, that blue property in that other map that I showed, they had applied for a waiver request in 2011. That request was approved. Frontage improvements will also be required on Mountain View Road in order to construct principal structure on this property. The applicant did not request a waiver of those improvements. However, the city is currently in final design of a project that would do those frontage improvements, and that is expected for construction in 2026. This item was reviewed by the Public Works Finance Committee on April 14th. It was forwarded to council with no recommendation. Staff's recommendation is to consider the request for waiver of public improvements to Thatuna Avenue and approve the waiver request. Does anybody have any questions?
Bob, will you speak to the finality of this waiver, please?
Yes.
This is the reason we brought it here, right here, this crux.
Right. So this waiver does not mean that the Thatuna will never get built. It does release the property owner of being required to build those frontage improvements in order to get their building permits to build their house. If the city were to find funding or come up with funding to build Thatuna, we could still do that. We still have the right of way. The right of way is not being vacated.
Right.
And we would be able to do that. It would just be completely city funded at that point.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, completely. Thank you.
I know you got one, Ava.
I've got a few. No one's surprised. But I need to figure out where I wrote it down. So let's say we move forward with granting this waiver. The right-of-way and setback requirements associated with the thoroughfare would still apply to how the property owner would have to build the house, right? Like I'm picturing, I lived on A Street when A Street got reconstructed. We lost half of our front yard because years and years ago when that right-of-way was established, that was already granted. Our house was still fine. Our stairs were replaced, but does that mean that the property owner would still have to factor in a possibility for an eventual retaining wall and or slope thingamajig with setbacks?
Theoretically, they wouldn't need to necessarily change their layout.
Okay.
Based on there being a road built there. They would, depending on how the house is built, they generally would, their grading and their construction would stop at their property line at the right-of-way line. So as long as we can confine our road to within our right-of-way, there is a possibility that the property owner in the future would have a big ugly retaining wall next to their house, but they shouldn't need to have any other considerations.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because it would still be subject to our standard setback guidance for parcels in that zone. And my other question being, this is the first time since I've been on council that we've had a right-of-way improvement waiver request. Can can you remind me how often we review the thoroughfare map and if there's been a time recently where a dotted line example has been like a topic of discussion? Because I'm thinking in terms of we know that ITD is talking through the context. I promise it's all related. The context being ITD talking about rerouting 95 traffic and Highway 8 traffic, and so I'd like to make sure our city's traffic fate is still in our own hands. But I'm not used to seeing a dotted line on a thoroughfare. I also didn't even ever notice the tuna was one of the dotted lines. But does that happen? Has it happened recently or often where we've addressed the dotted lines on thoroughfare maps?
Let's kick this one over to Bill, who has probably more of a historical perspective.
So that map is a component of the city's comprehensive plan, which we generally review on about a 5 to 10 year cycle. So that was most recently updated, I want to say 2019. That was probably our most current update. But it is something that we periodically on either a 5 to 10 year cycle are evaluating kind of the city's vision of future roadway networks, update for any changes, developments, street constructions has occurred since the last time it was updated. I think 2019. So it's probably about 6 years old at this point in time.
Okay. And I just have deliberation thoughts, so I'll park myself. Thank you.
Is it fair to say that every time we have some sort of development or a house or that kind of thing, we're looking at that thoroughfare plan each time?
Yes, that's correct. So when an applicant comes in for, let's say, a subdivision, we look at that thoroughfare plan and kind of steer the development in that direction.
Beautiful.
To fall in line with that thoroughfare plan.
Thank you.
I had this discussion with another city employee, but just for the benefit of everybody, why would the city not just vacate that portion of the tuna? Because it doesn't really seem like a great option to build that section of road into that particular corner anyway.
Well, right of way is used for lots of different modes of transportation. You may recall in one of the photos, you could see there was a pedestrian trail that utilizes that right of way. That right of way gives the public permission to use that property. It's loaded with utilities. There are franchise utilities, a sewer line, some sewer services, multiple private sewer services, and a public water line in there. And in the long run, as development out at that northeast end of town continues, it may end up being a good idea to keep that right away so that we can potentially build that in the future.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any idea how far in the future? No magic crystal ball there?
I don't have a, no.
Thanks.
And Mr. Mayor, just to rehash something that we talked about at Public Works, to reiterate the financial breakdown, if this wasn't granted, what the property owner would be subject to, the 1.5 million in adjusted numbers from city monies, we don't have that, right? This has not been something we've been in our 5-year plan to address, right?
To my knowledge, I'm pretty familiar with about 5 years forward in the comp plan. To my knowledge, it's not the comp plan, the capital improvement plan. It is not in there.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Surprise. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the waiver request.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I was just going to add, my notes were like, I really like infill. I have a hard time knowing that the waiver was granted in 2011 and subjecting a smaller property bundle on the Thatuna right-of-way strip to like all of the improvements. And since it's not in our plan and we don't have a $1.5 million, I'm glad to see someone being very creative with a very tricky lot. So just wanted to add that color.
Okay. Haley,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Bryce,
Aye.
Julia.
Aye.
Okay, that is done. The waiver is granted.
You're welcome.
Okay, next up, Moscow Police Department Annual Report. Anthony Dellinger. Hello, Chief.
Good evening. This is my first time doing a PowerPoint in here, so please bear with me. And I'm also don't use them a lot anyway, so.
The expectations are high.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I'm walking.
I believe you all got a copy of the electronic version of that cool little flip book. Thanks to Corey for his help with that. And Karen, of course, is always wonderful. So I'll try to keep this, keep the train on the tracks here. So, and see, this one's nice and small. This is just an organizational chart of the Moscow Police Department to give everybody a little preview of our different divisions. We've got 3 different divisions. First is going to be the operations division. Of course, that's more traditionally known as patrol. So that's everything on patrol. And I just dropped a duck. Oh, I don't know where that came from, but I dropped it. And then our services division, that's basically everything but patrol. So that's a lot of our records, property. We've got our code enforcement, parking enforcement, all in there, and detectives. And then our campus division, which services strictly the University of Idaho campus and all of our ancillary positions that go along with that. This is our command staff as of this year, and we're all pretty much brand new. So we've had a lot of retirements over the last few years, 10 to be exact, since 2021. So it's been quite a few. I've seen several of you at some of the celebrations, so I really appreciate you showing up and doing that. So obviously, that weird-looking guy on the left, thank you all for giving me my position. And then with the retirement of James Fry and my promotion, that opened up 2 captain positions. Dustin Blaker there on the end, he was already a captain. He was working in our services division. We made the move over to campus for him. And then Joe Sieverding and David Hathaway were promoted into their positions. Currently, Joe is over our operations division and David is over services. A little bit on staffing for 2024. Started out okay. We had 28 sworn out of our 33 budgeted positions, and that's, as we're all familiar, we've got 2 positions that are held back due to budget constraints. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this because this is in my way. And unfortunately, by the end of the year, we were down to 24 sworn, and we had 3 in training and 3 undergoing background. That was due to some resignations and some folks that unfortunately weren't able to successfully complete our field training program. And then also due to our low staffing, we've had those 3 positions there that have been vacant for some time that just we have not been able to fill. So retirements, as you're all pretty much familiar. Chief James Fry retired after 31 and a half years of serving our community. Really appreciate his time and effort, and especially during some very challenging times like the pandemic and then our very unfortunate 2022 incident. And then shortly after that, Captain Tyson Barrett, who started with us in '95 as a reserve officer, retired. He finished his career on the campus division, and he's doing quite well. I just saw him the other day at the Whitcomb barbecue. So, Officer Jay Waters also retired last year. He started his career with Latah County Sheriff's Office, much like myself, but then came down to Moscow Police Department in 2007. Unfortunately, after that other terrible incident of the killing of Officer Newbill and the shooting of the sheriff's office and such that we all remember, unfortunately. And then Diana Erickson, she served with our parking enforcement for quite a long time, 19 years. And she was honored in her little way. She didn't want a big to-do, so we had a nice little thing in City Council. It was great. Some staff recognitions, just to throw them out there. We had 3 life-saving award recipients this last year, and I won't read all of the details on this, but the first one there is Corporal Jacob Tesdall responded to a call in La Quinta Hotel of an individual who had possibly overdosed, and that was the case. Corporal Tesdall administered a dose of naloxone, also known as Narcan, to the individual, which regained breathing and a heartbeat after that. And they continued to work on that individual till EMS arrived, and that person did survive. In June 2024, we had a call of a neighboring agency, Whitman County. We had overheard that an autistic child had walked away from home. And so utilizing our new drone program, Detective Fox, who's one of our drone pilots, showed up, deployed the drone, and quickly it was able to find the child about a mile from its house. Cold, but the child was unharmed, thankfully. And last but not least, Officer Rosinski there in July was actually on his way. He was on his day off. He was down fishing and on his way home when he and a Latah County deputy saw a Nez Perce tribal officer stop with a vehicle. They looked like they were in distress, so they stopped, found out that the individual in the car was unconscious. So while the Nez Perce tribal officer was radioing for more assistance, Deputy Welch and Officer Rosinski pulled the individual from the car and performed CPR for 10 minutes until other resources could get there. And I will tell you that from doing CPR myself, 10 minutes is a very long time. You get very worn out. It's quite an effort. So we're very, very happy to recognize those individuals. A few other recognitions here, just real quick. Officer Rosendahl, we give an Officer of the Year award every year. He was recognized for his exemplary efforts and representing our core values. He also worked very hard to inspire others with his strong work ethic and responding to the highest number of calls for service of the whole department for the year, while also addressing some complex cases and supporting his fellow officers. Detective Fox was recognized as our services division or services person of the year. That was due to his efforts in several different investigations. First, he was the lead detective on a sexual child exploitation case that led to the seizure of 2 cell phones from an incarcerated suspect. Throughout a year-long investigation, required numerous warrants, multi-agency cooperation. The suspect was federally indicted and extradited to Idaho for his crimes, which was great. The other one, Detective Fox, also played an integral role in locating a juvenile female who had been reportedly kidnapped by her father and taken to Mexico. Detective Vargas and Detective Fox jumped in to help, and they worked with other law enforcement, including our federal partners, to locate those individuals in Mexico, bring them into arrest, and bring them back for facing charges. Corporal Nunes there was our, what we call our Ironman Award. That's our top physical fitness award. He was our recipient of that this year. He can run circles around me, but a lot of people can. I'm working on that. And then Officer Sneevy there, we had kind of a new, I guess, award that was brought up this year as the top DUI award for Officer Sneevy. He has been very diligent in trying to locate and stop impaired driving, and he impressively investigated 25 impaired drivers in the year. So that was wonderful to recognize him as well. And real quick, I like pictures, so we're going to have lots of pictures here for a moment. But just to talk for a minute on our community events that we just love to be a part of every year. We're looking forward to doing them again here shortly in this summer. But last year was our 18th annual New Bill Safety Fair, which I shouldn't say it's the communities. We don't run the New Bill Safety Fair, but we participate every year, and we love to recognize that. And we usually get a whole bunch of bike helmets. Last year we gave out 300 bike helmets. And we did 14 car seat checks for folks. And we got the great collaboration with the University of Idaho football team as well as the men's basketball team. They came out and helped fit helmets. National Night Out's coming up again this summer. Last year was our 10th year. It was a really big success. I think I remember seeing some of you down there. Fantastically attended. We had great weather, and then we came up with some new games this last year, or new activities. Like we had the radar trailer out there, and so people could pitch a softball and see how fast they could throw it. That was friendly little competition. We also had a dunk tank. You can see Detective Vargas there in the bottom right-hand corner. She got dunked several times.
Trooper, what a trooper.
And I just wanted to, real briefly, the list was too long for me to say in this presentation, but we have so many different partnerships in the community, businesses alike, that come and help us with that event. It just really makes it special. Several of them donated food and all of those things that we can give to the community. So it's just great. It's just great. Looking forward to it this year as well. Shop with a Cop happened again. This was our 9th annual. A little bit of a change up this year. Walmart's, so typically we could go directly to Walmart to request the grant funds that they utilize for this program. Something kind of went wonky there, but luckily we had a congregation here in town, Real Life Church, stepped in and they were able to take that on and get the funds, in which they then helped us to put this on, which was wonderful. So we didn't have a lapse in a year that we could do this for the children of Moscow. And of course, we have a lot of our different regional law enforcement partners there. We were from Fish and Game to Idaho State Police, even the U.S. Forest Service law enforcement was there. It was a really good time. And then McDonald's provided breakfast sandwiches for free for all the kids. So we'd take them around, shop with them. We'd have all of our family members and other staff there to wrap their presents and then give them a breakfast sandwich and get them on their way. It was a good time. Also last year was our 22nd annual, I can't believe it's been that long, Citizens Police Academy. We had 32 participants. And thankfully for our new training room, we can fit 32 people in there. That's about the max. But it's a great way for us to continue to collaborate with our community, bring them into our police department, show them what we're about, what law enforcement's all about, and especially how Moscow Police Department does law enforcement. So it was just great. And I know several of you have gone through that program.
Indeed.
Also wanted to highlight our cadet program. It continues to grow. I believe we're going into our 3rd year now. Our first cadre was only 5 cadets, and now we're up to 12, and it's actually become a quite competitive program. We had, I believe, 8 positions open this year, and we had 15 applicants, I believe, 12 to 15 applicants. So it's wonderful. It's just a great collaboration, again, between the university and us. It's a win-win for the cadets. They get college credit for their efforts, as well as getting to know our department. And to date, it's been one of our best recruiting tools. So, and even if these folks don't end up staying with our department, we've seen them now. One of them just got hired in Spokane. Another one was looking to get hired in southeastern Idaho. They're at least going out, still getting into law enforcement, as you all know, we really need. So into some of the nitty gritty. Crime statistics from this last year. This is from the Idaho State Police, NIBRS. They tabulate all of the crime stats for the state. So crimes against person luckily went down over this last year by 2%, just over 2%. Crimes against property, so obviously those things like theft, burglary, those types of deals, that went down 22%, which is wonderful, almost 23%. And then crimes against society, that would be a lot of your drug crimes, things like that. That also had a significant drop of almost 12.5%. And for anybody who's interested, I know you can't see the link there because, again, I couldn't remember how big the screen is. But if you go on the Idaho State Police website, all over the state, the crime statistics are out there for any community, county, or city. You can take a look at those. More specific for our agency, this is a bit of a breakdown of just all of our calls for service. So we had just shy of, 10,400 calls for service last year. And then there's a bit of a breakdown, and without boring you going through all of them, you can kind of get a feel for it. Some of the bigger numbers on there is we had over 4,700 traffic stops our officers conducted, which is quite the effort. And then a plethora of all the other little details that we deal with.
Chief, what falls under business checks?
Business checks. So that, sorry, what am I doing here? Go back. Oh, that's the other button. There we go. So business checks are what our officers are doing. That's not a call for service. That's them getting out of their car, going and shaking doors, going into businesses when they're open, seeing how things are going, talking with business owners, seeing if there's anything that we could do better, help them out, just making those contacts in the public. And it's also lunch breaks, going into, one of the shops to get a sandwich, talking to the staff that are working there. We actually get quite a bit of intelligence from that, just, communicating with our citizenry. Drug enforcement. This is one thing. Luckily, it is trending down a little bit, but I'm very impressed with some of these numbers, especially since K&R Ragnar has been out there really, really doing a lot of work. So those are all, other than the pills there, and I'll talk about that in a minute, those are all in grams. So that's in the drug world, I mean, that's a fair amount. And that little note on the bottom there, I just wanted to point that out. So according to the DEA, just 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal to a human. So to date, from 2022, these numbers here, we've seized enough fentanyl to potentially kill 446,000 people. I know that seems pretty crazy, but that is the truth. The fentanyl pills, as you see there, that's something that we frequently see on the street. So they are marked to look like legitimate prescription medication, and they are not. And of course, they don't have, the people who are making those don't have standards on how much is going into each pill. And so it could be little to nothing, or it could be double the lethal dose. And so that is a very dangerous situation. I think the DEA, yes, I did have it here, anywhere from 0.02 milligrams to 5.1 milligrams is what they've been testing. Traffic enforcement. So we teamed up again with ITD on several of their grants this year, and I really apologize. Next year, I will make sure that all my pictures are a lot bigger. But these are the grants that we work with to do special emphasis patrols. Some of them are DUI patrols. Some of them are texting and driving patrols. Some of them are aggressive driving, things like that. But through the special emphasis patrols, we had 160 contacts, and 28% of those contacts were issued citations for speeding, lack of insurance, and other registration or moving or non-moving violations. The STEP grant, which you're all familiar because you accepted it, thank you. We've been working on that the last couple of years, and it pays for about 2,080 hours of dedicated traffic enforcement and plus 200 hours of overtime for special mobilizations. And the statistics are down there that you can't hardly see, but I think you could probably see them a little bit better on your screen. Training. So I wanted to highlight this just really quick. You know, that is one thing as an agency we've always put a very heavy emphasis on, is continual training of our officers and for their development. And so we wanted to continue on with that. And that's just a brief list of some of the bigger trainings we were able to provide to our folks this year. The one thing I wanted to point out again, and thank the council and our citizenry for giving us that building, because with that training room, we've been able to utilize that to bring in trainings into our agency that we typically have to pay money to send officers out. So our training funds can go a lot farther. Plus, when you bring in trainings, one of the benefits is many providers will give you free slots. So we can actually have more than just a couple officers if our schedule allows to go to those things. Investigations, real briefly. So we only had the 2 detectives this year, general detectives. It was Detective Payne and Vargas. They investigated over 35 criminal cases, which is quite a lot for just 2 people. A couple of other ones to note specifically. Detective Payne collaborated with the Idaho State Police Cold Case Unit and reopened 2 of our cold cases. And we've been employing new investigative techniques and exploring current avenues to resolve those. So we're working, those don't just go away. We continue to look at those. He's also been great with the department and in establishing a new physical readiness test. He's a bit of our fitness guru. He actually went out on his own and became a licensed or certified physical trainer. And so it's been great. And he's been working on bolstering our wellness program within the department. Detective Vargas, he has a lot of other responsibilities, but she also helped with that kidnapping case where the child went to Mexico, worked with the FBI and Customs and Border Protection, Pullman Police, Seattle Police to locate the child, bring them home. And she also played a crucial role in a case involving 6 individuals from Nigeria who laundered millions of dollars through sophisticated fraud schemes. And unfortunately, elderly U.S. citizens are primary targets of that. And luckily, 6 individuals were able to get indicted out of that work. So I just want to notate that, how hard that is when you're dealing with international issues. Forensics detectives there, Detectives Fox and Mowry, managed 80 cases themselves, primarily involving crimes against children on the internet. They also they help so many of our other regional and local partners in law enforcement. It is amazing. And again, I want to thank the council for your continued support of our forensics lab. This year, Detective Maurer received recognition on 2 different occasions. I believe they both were in this room as an ICAC investigator for the Attorney General's office. And he was praised for his dedication to his profession, consistent hard work on ICAC cases across the state. And his second recognition of the year came from the U.S. Secret Service for his accomplishments in digital forensics and cybercrime investigations. Detective Fox was also recognized in 2 incidents. He worked on a case involving an inmate in Arkansas, believe it or not, which led to that individual's conviction of further crimes from being incarcerated.
Wow.
Records and property, they are also very, very busy individuals. Our records unit managed the 10,311 case records over the year. That also includes processing 2,235 citations and over 1,000 FOIA requests. That number is likely to be much higher in the future. They referred 751 cases to the Latah County Prosecutor's Office and almost 1,700 cases to the City of Moscow Prosecuting Office. So very, very busy folks. And then just a breakdown there of the amount of property we brought in, released or destroyed or took to the lab that our property technician has done. Parking code enforcement. Parking was very busy this year. Over 5,646 parking citations were issued, which totaled fines of $155,250. $7,200 of that was from parking booths that were placed on vehicles that had more than 3 overdue parking tickets. And then our code enforcement numbers down there, as you can see, is primarily animal related, but did take several other code violations throughout the city. And lastly, I just wanted to highlight our chaplain program. This is something that has been a great part of our organization for a long time, and I just wanted to recognize Chaplain Rod Alps, who unfortunately passed away in June. He was a wonderful resource for the department. He was one of those individuals that was always there for you. He was doing exactly what he should have been doing, although he would tell you, I don't think I know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm just here, and that was what we needed. But great individual, really miss him, and just wanted to recognize him. Yeah. So I think that was a land speed record. Questions?
Sandra.
Chief, first, thanks for all that, and really grateful for all the work that your crew does. I've had the chance to see them in many different situations, and I'm grateful for their professionalism and the help that they give. I don't know if this is a question or just something to keep on the radar. One of the things I do at the university is I work with a lot of international students, and they're really scared right now. And they've never been scared of the police before, and they are now. Only because they're afraid that somehow they're going to just get their visas ripped away and get deported. And I guess my question is, I don't know what to tell them. Do you have any advice on what to tell them?
Well, certainly, I understand difficult times at the moment. One thing that our campus division has done a great job at is fostering relationships with all different factors of the university. And I know for a fact that at least a couple times a year, they do meet with the international students. And so having already built those relationships, I would say you could ask them to just reconnect with our officers, and we can work on that connection as well, and realize that get a little bit more explanation of the difference between federal law enforcement, local law enforcement, the applicable laws, the jurisdictions, those types of things, because just some of that times that knowledge is power. And you can understand a little bit better about where we as the Moscow Police Department are versus nationally or statewide.
Right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Chief, and thank you for the presentation. Yeah, that booklet yesterday when I was working through it, really, really well done. So cheers to Corey and the crew. Curious, where did the parking fees go? That $155,000 that you mentioned there, where for all, I mean, I don't think I speak alone that I'm not the only one that's gotten a ticket.
I'm half of them.
I know you are. I was going to let you bring that up, Drew. But yeah, like just for those that do get tickets and not knowing where that money actually gets back invested.
I'm going to defer this one to Bill. I believe he goes into the general fund, but he's much more knowledgeable.
Correct. Citation fees come into the general fund, help pay for parking enforcement. So a little over half of those funds would go towards just the parking enforcement program. And then the rest goes into general fund for overall parking management, improvements and maintenance.
Great. Thanks.
Gina.
I have a couple questions for you. First of all, is there like a graduate school for the Citizens Police Academy?
Next level.
I would like to take it again. I had no idea. What you guys, I mean, the worst I usually do is a parking ticket. So, there's a lot more besides that. But I think you ought to think about maybe a graduate program in that. And when you have extra space in the verbal judo training, I want to be part of it.
Okay.
It sounds really interesting, and it'd be fun to see how that translates into law enforcement.
Certainly.
So, and again, thank you. It really is a nice relationship to have with the order keepers in our community. And so you've done a good job building that relationship and keeping all of us sort of in order, sort of. So thank
Well, we
you.
appreciate it. We appreciate the continued support.
I've got two. Ditto on the thank yous. I feel so lucky to live in a community where I trust every single person on the police force, and I just really huge kudos to you, Chief, and Chief Fry for building a really strong culture. My two questions, if I remember right, there were some laws that changed in Idaho related to the distribution or the ability to acquire naloxone. And maybe that was just agencies who were not like medical providers or law enforcement. Does everyone who's on patrol carry Narcan with them and are trained to use it?
So yes, initially I'm going to have to, I think this was at least 2 or 3 years ago, and that was under a different level of legislation. At that time, we deployed the Narcan in each patrol vehicle, and the initial policy was that it is primarily to be used on other law enforcement. So
Okay, yeah.
if another officer went down, we would be able to utilize that. Since that time, we've gotten further training on it. The laws have changed a bit, so each officer does still continue to carry Narcan in each vehicle, and we are allowed, obviously, as Corporal Tesdall did, use it on citizens that we might find that might need it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I forgot. I am now remembering one of the previous updates talking about just like a whiff of fentanyl can knock an officer down. So that's good to know. My follow-up, the incident in Pocatello with the nonverbal, mentally disabled, physically disabled. He had cerebral palsy, Victor Perez. He was 17 and was shot and was just taken off of life support. And that's been weighing pretty heavy on my heart. And I guess I'm trying to, if we get questions from friends or neighbors or families who may have family members who are disabled, and I've had a few in passing, I've just tried to say, I really trust everyone on MPD, but are there specific trainings or things that I can help articulate to them that our officers go through that would have prevented a situation like this? It is a tragedy, but what can I do to help reassure our citizens that our folks are trained and know how to handle citizens and who are not, maybe nonverbal or disabled?
Sure. And obviously I can't speak to the situation in Pocatello. That's still under investigation. I know nothing about it, the internal workings of it. But obviously what I can't speak to is what we're doing at Moscow Police Department. And so every one of our officers within the first year or so, we try to get them to, number one, a critical intervention training. So many acronyms, the CIT training. We typically partner with the Department of Health and Welfare with that. I think they put on a couple of different trainings a year. And then the last couple of years, there's been an outfit that has been providing some autism-specific training that several of our officers have been able to go to. And it's definitely things like that now that we are kind of getting back into trying to utilize our training facility that I would like to see us bring more internally. So we can get more people to it at a faster pace.
I love it. Yeah, you've got my full support. And lastly, I was just going to say thanks for your team's work with the Quad Cities Task Force. I was happy to see, I think a couple of weeks ago, there was a headline in Lewiston that we were able to assist with the case. So kudos. That's all I got, Mayor. Thanks.
Drew.
Yeah, again, like everyone said, thank you for leadership and everything you're doing for the community. I was wondering, could you go the slide that had it's like the narcotics that broke it down over a year of decreasing efforts.
This one?
Yeah, so I mean, those are some great numbers there. Like I mean, I just think that's awesome how it's declining. What do you have data, or do you have some reasons tracking of why it's been going down? Do you have some speculation or?
Well, yeah, a little bit of speculation, a little bit of information from the street, basically. So luckily, K9 Ragnar has been very successful. He's very cute, but he's also very good at his job. And we've seen a decline. I'm sorry?
Don't mess with him.
Yeah. Well, we also get hair all over.
Yeah.
He sheds terribly. But so what we've learned through our conversations with individuals in that world is that Moscow is being known now as just don't bother, don't go over there. We're very, very strongly enforcing drug enforcement,
good,
as well as other things. And they know that K9 Ragnar is working hard. So it's a stay away is what I've heard.
Okay. That's fantastic. That's kind of what I was hoping to hear, but I'm glad we have Ragnar on our side. So it's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all the questions.
We love having him.
Yeah.
How do you work with the drug court with all these drug arrests, or is that just up to the prosecutor?
Yeah, so we actually, just for essence of time, I didn't put it in the slideshow, but we've partnered with, we have a representative on the mental health court and the drug court programs through our court system. Let me think here. So Captain Sieverding is our mental health court representative now, and Captain Hathaway is our drug court representative. And so they are a part of what they call the treatment teams up there. And, it's not a punitive position. We're there to be a part of the process. I was on the mental health court team for a short while in one of my previous stints. But, certainly we have input on how things are going and work with the team on trying to figure out the best way to help these individuals be successful in the program.
Thank you.
We got one more, and it kind of follows up with what Haley was referencing earlier. And I know this is kind of pie in the sky, and our resources are already so thin, and there's, vacated positions at present. Would you ever be willing, if the availability was there, to bring on like a social worker or mental health professional to help deal with cases or issues out in the community, especially because we see those instances happening more and more? Just wondering if that would be something you would be in favor of.
Yeah, we'd certainly look at it. I mean, obviously, looking in the news, there's a lot of larger agencies that are trying to incorporate more individuals like that. Being in a small rural area, we don't have as many services as some of those other areas, although that has continued to grow. I've been fortunate enough to be a part of the Latah Recovery Center board for the last 5 years, 5 years. They're doing great work. They're expanding. I'd love seeing that. The Rural Crisis Center was a huge addition to our community. So, long story long, I would not be opposed to looking at it in the future if that is something that we could budget for, or I definitely see the benefits of it.
Great. Thanks, Chief.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Come back and see us next year.
Will you let us know when those safety fairs are going on and everything? Great. Thanks.
It's getting a little chilly.
Okay, next up is a strategic plan report from Bill Beltman.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you. I figure if you wanted it, you would have grabbed it.
Good evening, Bill.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. So just a little bit of background. Really, we utilize strategic planning to help us focus on some of those longer range goals and objectives for the community, and help us focus our limited resources to those ends. It is a continuing, ongoing process, so this is something we go through periodically, but we are the government. We do take time to get projects done. We do have limited funding, so it is a paced effort over time. But it's a continuing, ongoing process. We are continuously measuring the effectiveness of our strategies, reassessing and adjusting to meet the community's needs. So again, it's something we work on where we start to identify the goals. Where do we want to go? What are those desired outcomes? How do we get there? Develop those strategies, look at those measures and targets and the results. And it's just kind of a continuing, ongoing process. But in the center of that is our mission, which is to deliver quality municipal services while ensuring the responsible use of resources. And we focus and hope to anticipate and meet the needs of our diverse population in order to build public trust and enhance the sense of community. So that's at the center of it all. So what we have been working on for the process we've been following is to work on updating and revising the plan more extensively every 4 years in the fall of the year following the mayoral election. So that gives us at least a good 3 years of consistent leadership among the council as well as the mayor. We do an annual report each spring, which we're talking about today, and that helps update the council on our progress, as well as look at any additional issues that have arisen over the course of the year and anything that we need to be focusing on as we work on developing the city's budget. If we have any new unforeseen issues, and we can certainly work through that process of ranking that and prioritizing that for the following year. Or if there's some unforeseen emergency, the council can choose to prioritize something at that time. The process we went through in 2022 and 23, the council, the mayor, and city's 3 operational groups were requested to identify up to 3 strategic issues for consideration. Really, kind of what were the 3 most pressing issues facing the community. We prepared as staff a scoring and ranking matrix for the council and the mayor and the executive management team to score each of those issues. We held a council workshop then to review the issue statements and the scoring, and then the mayor and the council then worked through the process of ranking those major challenge areas in kind of 3 relative priority tiers. So these were kind of just examples of the issue statement forms that were submitted that had a number of questions about a description of the issue, asking does the city have primary responsibility for this issue, what's the impact of not addressing the issue, how pervasive is it, is this a short-term or a long-term issue, is it urgent, do we have to address it now or can it be addressed in the future, is it controllable, is it something the city actually has influence over to be able to control, and how does it impact that long-term vision of the community. Out of that process, the council identified these items. So this is not in priority. This just is how they were submitted at the time. So we had our aging city shop. We had our substandard emergency communication facility. Number 3 is challenges with fire emergency medical staffing, affordable housing, inability to recruit sufficient staff to perform essential services. You saw Chief Dollinger talk about our recruitment efforts for law enforcement. We had preservation, enhancement, urban forest, alternative water sources needed, inadequate funding to maintain city streets, multimodal transportation and connectivity, supporting local economic development, playfield rehabilitation and development, city gateway aesthetics and beautification, and then deteriorating downtown streetscape and infrastructure. So those were kind of all of the items that were submitted that were identified as being focuses for the community to work on. We went through that process of scoring, including scores based on impact and magnitude. So how significant is the damage if it's not addressed? How pervasive is this? How widespread is it? The duration and frequency, as I mentioned, urgency, controllability, and impact on community legacy. So we kind of went through this process, had a survey monkey where all the issue statements were presented, and the mayor and council went through and had the opportunity to score each of those items. And then we had kind of a scoring matrix that came out of that identified the relative priorities. And this was ultimately the list as prioritized by the council. So first and foremost was working on a long-term sustainable water supply for the community. Second was fire and emergency medical staffing. Third was emergency communications. Fourth was the city's shop deficiencies. Fifth was that recruitment of essential staff, and then followed by funding of streets, maintenance, deteriorating downtown streetscape, urban forest, affordable housing, multimodal transportation and connectivity, city entry gateway beautification, playfield rehabilitation, and supporting local economic development. So those were the ultimate ranking of those items. So to get a kind of current update, so the alternative water supply source, so in 2023, The alternate water supply assessment concluded that the Snake/Clearwater River were going to be the likely best long-term sources of water for us on the Palouse. In 2024, the Idaho Water Resource Board then allocated funding about $182,500 to continue to advance the study of this item. In 2024, city issued a request for qualifications for the Palouse Basin Alternative Water Supply Project Study. We have selected a consultant, and we're currently working on negotiating a contract and scope of work. Council should see that here in the next month or two coming forward. So we are making significant progress on that particular issue. For fire and emergency medical services staffing, in 2023, the city and the volunteers jointly partnered up to fund a holiday stipend program. As the council knows, our student residents staff our stations 24/7, and where we oftentimes struggle in staffing is during those holiday breaks when they may be going home. So we created a program where they could earn a stipend if they were to stay here for the holiday, and that has allowed us to have a engine staffed at all times during those holiday breaks. Later in 2024, the city and the volunteers agreed to fund 3 paramedic firefighter positions to provide base EMS coverage. Leading up in 2022 and 2023, the city's EMS division chief was covering, and other staff, paid city staff, they're generally administrative staff, were covering up to 55% of the paramedic shifts, which was not sustainable. So the city and the volunteers have partnered to bring on those 3 full-time paramedic firefighters to provide that base paramedic EMS coverage. In 2024, the city also added 2 additional positions to the student resident program for a total of 24, and looks like we're going to be increasing that number for next year as well. And then in early this year, we issued an RFQ for an EMS services study. That is also a contract, and scope is currently being negotiated, and council will see that here shortly as well. And we're going to also be looking at, there was a study done in 2016 to add additional sleeping capacity to Station 2. We're going to work on getting that integrated into the city's long-term capital improvement plan. So for the substandard emergency communication system, in 2022, the city started off with engaging an engineer to do the design of the radio system. In 24, contracts were awarded for replacement of all portable and mobile radios and the construction of new repeaters. The radios are received. They are currently being programmed. The repeater, all the equipment is in hand and currently being assembled, and we expect to have that project completed by the end of July of this year. Aging City Shop was number 4. So in 22, we engaged a consultant to prepare a concept design cost estimate so we could start to understand the scope of the project. In 2023, City Council reallocated the $3.6 million in ARPA funds for this particular project. In 24, we moved forward with design of the new facility. In late 24, the council awarded that contract for construction, and that construction started in March of this year. We are hoping to be done by the end or into early spring of next year as well with that project. There will be a phase 2 coming along for the remodel of the existing shop once we can move folks out into the new facility. But we've made good substantial progress on that project as well. Recruitment of staff, I think as Chief Dellinger mentioned, in 2022, the police department launched the cadet program to assist with their recruitment efforts, which has been very successful. We've also been very consistent every 2 years in doing compensation surveys to make sure that we are maintaining competitive. In 22 through 24, we have been working on trying to increase our share of dependent health insurance premium coverage. The surveys we've done with our peer cities around us, the standard typically is 80% of that premium is paid by the city. We were paying 50%, so that is a fairly significant cost to the employees. So we've been working to increase that coverage by 5% for every year. We're currently at 60. We're currently trying to build the FY26 budget at 65% coverage. Continue to work on those salary surveys. We just completed one fall of 2024, and that led to a number of adjustments and reclassifications as well. And we also have seen, law enforcement is probably one of the more challenging areas, and engineers just close behind in number 2. But we generally are seeing better recruitment, better response. We've had a number of positions here recently where we've had 30 to 40 applicants for the position. So we are seeing much better responses to our efforts. Inadequate street funding for city streets. This is probably going to be one of those that's going to be in perpetuity challenges. It is one of those areas that, as the council's aware, we had some adjustments we needed to make. We stopped collecting street lighting fee. It was about $300,000 a year. So we are seeing, decreasing revenues for roadway and street maintenance. But we're doing the best we can to help ensure that we are keeping up on that. We have a number of street projects in FY25 that you'll see in the budget. Well, you approved in the budget for 25. We had about $600,000 for the Wyatt Avenue pavement restoration project. The Mountain View TAP projects were budgeted in 2025. That would add sidewalk, bike lanes, curbing on Mountain View, both north and south. The state has delayed that project by 1 year, so we'll see that in 2026. And then we also see the Public Avenue LSIP project. That match, the 101,000 is not correct. As you may recall, we just added another 450,000 of match contribution to that project just here a couple of meetings ago.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask Bill about the Mountain View?
If it's okay with Bill.
Bill, can I ask you a question about the Mountain View? When you say the state delayed it to 26, is that just hitting the snooze button? Like do we need to reapply? Do we know why they bumped it?
They just didn't get the design advanced. So this is one of the TAP, the Transportation Alternative Programs projects, and they just did not get the project advanced quickly enough to be ready to bid it this spring. So they asked us if we were okay with it being delayed by 1 year. So we haven't lost our place. Project is still funded.
It's not tied to federal funding questions or anything. It just, great.
Yep,
Thank
just
you.
delayed by that 1 year. And then we'll also have, actually, we did more than 250,000 this year. We were about a little over 300,000 in surface treatment. The council has also already awarded that will be going out to help maintain and extend the life of our city streets and roadways. Number 7 was deteriorating downtown streetscape. In 2023, the city selected a consultant to help assist in a downtown streetscape study. That study was wrapped up in just about a year, ultimately concluded that in overall, to achieve kind of the community's vision for downtown, for rehabbing it, was about a $26 million project that was landed kind of on our desk about the same time we were going through some of our financial challenges. So we kind of placed that on hold right now. We are working to prepare a plan of incremental targeted improvements because we, as you can see in the photo in the background there, we do have a lot of deteriorating hardscape that does need to be repaired. So we're going to be working on developing kind of a phased plan over time to look at some targeted improvements. You'll see some of that coming forward in the FY26 budget. Preservation enhancement of the urban forest. In 2024, city worked on preparing a downtown street tree assessment and management plan to help understand the age condition of our public streets downtown and to look at how do we gracefully manage their transition as they age out. We are working to identify additional resources that can be allocated to goal in 25. But we're still continuing to focus on that. For lack of affordable housing, we are continuing to support the homeownership grant program. Unfortunately, they have had some challenges finding qualifying buyers, but we had enhanced grant funding of $20,000 per housing unit constructed for an eligible buyer. We have had 2 homes that have been able to receive that benefit, but that's about where we are at this moment. For multimodal transportation connectivity, we are continuing to work on the South Main Underpass project. That also has been delayed due to some challenges related to some sediment and moved around during the 2019 flood after we had done an earlier feasibility assessment. That ultimately ended up causing us some problems on getting a no-rise certification. So if you are going to place an obstruction like a pathway through a bridge opening, you have to have a certification that it will not result in the flood levels being increased. Some of that sediment that got moved in the 2019 event is causing some disruption there. So I've been working on scoping out what kind of channel alterations would be necessary to make this feasible. That is still ongoing. That is another state-led project, and it's probably trending now towards 2027, we expect, because of the additional environmental review. For Gateway Aesthetics Beautification, we did have some design funding for landscaping in association with that South Main Underpass. That, again, probably will be delayed with the underpass construction. Number 12 is playfield rehabilitation and development. As the council is aware, we are currently exploring joint development with the Moscow School District on the West Palouse River Drive property that the city owns, looking at the potential for that site to host both an elementary school as well as additional recreational playfields. So we've got a workshop coming up with the school board on May 12th to look at the preliminary results of that study. And for supporting local economic development, we continue to support the Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center, as well as CEDA and other partners within the region. And that was about it. So again, just kind of a quick summary. We do have a number of those that, as we look at how we craft these for the next effort, really looking at those that we can achieve with really in a specified time frame and crafting them. We have, ones I think are going to be, they are achievable, but they're going to be longer term. Probably the ones that I've labeled there as ongoing achievable. We've got those that we've completed or will be completing this year. We're really close. And then there's probably going to be those that are going to be ongoing and continuous. So roadway maintenance funding, urban forestry maintenance, affordable housing, and transportation and connectivity will probably be things we'll be continuing to focus on in the long term. So really this was identified for the workshop, but we're just going to get a briefing to here today. So really the goal was to review that progress towards those strategic initiatives, to talk about and identify if there are any new unanticipated or urgent strategies that we need to be looking at, strategic initiatives we need to look at. If there's any budget priorities, which unfortunately the way the FY26 budget is shaping up is likely to be a maintenance year. So we aren't going to have any substantial amount of funding for any large swings. But again, as we start thinking about that 2026 plan that we'll be engaging in for the update of the strategic plan next year, really kind of looking at things that are specific, that are measurable, achievable, realistic, and that can be achieved within a particular, at least a reasonable time period for the community. But with that, I'd be happy to turn it over to the council and answer any questions you might have.
Let's start with Haley.
I'll take the edge off. Thank you, Bill. It's really fun seeing some of those ones be crossed off with complete. The thing that I'd really love to have, and it doesn't necessarily make sense for us as the city to take this on, is to get every single taxing entity in a room to help understand with like a Gantt chart timeline as far as like end of life of the thing that comes to mind is like the jail facility. I'm very concerned that if we get to a place where the jail, the library, and the school district are all talking about bonds, and it's just a race to who can get the bond on the ballot first, and we have a severe, fire need. I don't know the fire station is an important, as urgent a need for a replacement station, but I think that's things that we all kind of have floating around in our heads, and I don't know that it needs to be branded on as a city strategic initiative, but I'm really mindful that of the people who are in Latah County, most of them are our a large number of them are our constituents. And so just understanding truly what is coming end of life for all of the other taxing entities, because I really don't want us to end up in a situation where one critical service can't be met because it's a race to who can get the bond on the ballot first. So just want to throw that out there. Is Gantt chart the right one? The stepped, yeah, that one.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
Okay, all right.
Set the stage.
Awesome.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Good stuff. Okay, we'll move on and into council reports. Julia,
Let me go first. Okay.
always first.
Always first?
You're the council pres.
Okay, I'm the council president, so I went to council leadership on April 16th. I also attended the Human Rights Commission meeting this month, and they are working on plans for mostly for the fall as we head into summertime and things slow down a little bit in terms of their engagement with students, things like that. I was able to go to the chamber luncheon and have listened to Lori McCann talk about what happened this year in the Idaho State Legislature and how that might impact this district. So that was really helpful to hear from her. And I got to attend the non-city function, but relevant to affordable housing, the Habitat for Humanity Beans and Jeans fundraiser on Saturday. It is an incredible event if you ever get to do that one. tons of people there, lots of good feelings about building a new house. This one will be in Pullman. And I will say that I donated a cake. I made a cake and I donated a cake. And the bid for my cake was $1,700. Which doesn't say much about my baking, but it says a lot about the people at that go to the Habitat for Humanity
Well, start
fundraiser.
baking more cakes, Julia.
I know. So you guys should appreciate my cookies more.
I do.
Seriously, I am like a,
Yeah, you're a
top
hot commodity.
chef over here. Anyway, this week I have the Clearwater Economic Development Association annual meeting on Thursday night. And then I will be heading to Salt Lake City to see 2 Moscow High School graduates run the Salt Lake City Marathon.
Whoa.
One of whom happens to be my child, but yeah.
Nice. Good marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I was able to attend the chamber lunch. Julia covered that. It's great to hear Lori talk about confusing session. So that was good. I was able to go, let's see here. Opening day happened for Cal Ripken. Just want to again let our staff know how great they did in one, teaching kids how to take care of ball fields, but also having ball fields ready to play. And I will be spending most of my nights there for Cal June, which is great. Yeah, weather's been good, so it's been easy to take care of fields. But a great event for the youngsters. And then was able to attend the MURA meeting and looking towards the end of May to have open comment or kind of a brain sessioning session with people that have been interested in Sixth and Jackson. And so more details to come from staff running that, but that was some good headway there for month of May. Then we'll be reviewing our budget later this summer and all those things. And then let's see, going over to spoke at Mamba, so the Mountain Biking Association for Moscow and Latah County. So, and we come and speak about why it's important to bike. And so I like to bike. So good crowd, and it was great to be able to support that group. And then attended the council workshop that we had a week ago, and it's great to have that. So, and that concludes everything for me.
We're good. Sandra.
All right. I was all excited because I thought I was going to break the news about the radios and the fire, and there was Mr. Bill Knapp stealing my thunder on that one. But that's a pretty cool thing to have that up and ready to go. So the roundabout way of that saying, I went to the volunteer fire department meeting. And other than that, they're working on a couple fix-it-uppers on some doors and whatnot, but things seem to, I never want to say this out loud, like things seem to be going well, but that can change as we know in a moment's notice. I did not make it to SMART. There were a lot of weird meetings going on that day, but Haley is also on SMART, so I think she has that covered, so stay tuned. Mira, the only thing to add to what Drew said, I think there's a very big possibility that we're going to get some trees in on that section. And that will be good. And they won't be torn down with whatever happens in the future. So it'll be nice to have some trees there. Let's see. I also attended the University of Idaho Awards for students. And that was one of my favorite events, even though I don't usually like award shows. And the food is not great, but it was really fun to see students get honored for the hard work that they do. And they're always surprised.
Cake. Julia didn't bake any cake.
Julia did not bake cakes for this, and I'm sad because the nachos are really lacking. And then let's see. I guess in my non-commission world, the Inland Oasis had a fundraiser yesterday at Shattuck Brewery, and they had a silent auction, a live auction, and an Easter egg / beer hunt. And it was one of the best fundraisers they've ever had, and it was just a lot of fun, and ended up being able to take home a pizza for dinner. So all in all, a pretty great night, though no cake. Um, and then this week, I'm proud to say that I'm headed to Goshen, Indiana for my niece's graduation. So that's about what I have on my agenda.
Gina?
You forgot my name again, didn't you?
No, I was busy writing.
Okay, just call me in. As I told you last council meeting, the tree commission will meet again in the beginning of May, which is really close. Do you guys realize that's next week? And then the transportation too will wait and meet in the beginning of, transportation committee will meet in May as well. So I don't have anything to tell you about those two items, but Sandra talked about trees, so we've had our moment there, right? I too attended the council workshop, and I think I proved that one of these things is not like the other.
Oh, I loved it.
It was a good workshop. We had very different perspectives. Arbor Day, one more time. Berman Creekside Park this Friday, 1:15 to 2:15. You do want to be there, and you do want to carpool or ride a horse or ride your bike. Parking is tough over there, but it will be a really cool event, really great trees. Spring football at the University of Idaho this Friday, 6 p.m. Do not miss it. Football is still here. Life is good. Baseball's fun, but football is football. And then I will say that my chief service of the city for the last couple weeks has been dedicated outreach to the Garden Lounge. I will tell you that that is a beautiful renovation. Yeah, it was an effort. But really a nice redo of that building. And I have to say, aside from, obviously the adult entertainment part, it's really great. Go in there and enjoy the light fixtures and the way that they fixed up the walls and the ceilings, and just do. It's worth a visit. You can order water if you need to. Okay, that's all.
Cool. Bryce.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to piggyback off what Gina was saying about the Garden Lounge, the back bar, they have two bars, one in the front, one in the back, and the light fixtures above the back bar are actually original from the Garden back 50 or 60 years ago that they found in a box when they were kind of going through renovations. So it's pretty cool if you get a little bit of that history. In a more official capacity, and as I did last time, I'm going to go chronologically because that's apparently my style now. On April 8th, I was going to have the Moscow Arts Commission, but it was canceled. So looking forward to the May meeting. On April 9th, we did have planning and zoning, where we looked at CUPs for a mobile home community to allow tiny houses, which was exciting. We should be seeing that probably come our way, pretty soon. On Saturday, the 12th, I also went out to the opening day for Cal Ripken baseball for a little while and kind of wandered around and watched some kiddos have balls go between their legs and, then run really fast around the bases. But it was great energy. And I think they, had over 20, 30 teams out there from the surrounding area. It was awesome, actually, just like the energy. And it's always one of those like signs of good spring and summer to come. Also that day, I strolled up to Hemp Fest just to kind of support the cute little event that Hemp Fest is. And that always falls on Parents Weekend with U of I. So it's always fun to see students be like, hey, welcome to Moscow. Let's go to this thing. Yeah. And it's pretty good. Last week had Public Works and Finance, followed by Council Workshop afterwards, which was very meaningful. And I really valued that time that you all put together to make that happen. So thank you. On April 15th, I had Sustainable Environment Commission, where David gave a presentation on the pesticide usage in the parks. And that was, again, really informative, especially going into main park season here in spring and summer. Also gave an update on Harvest Park, which conceptually is so cool, right? Yeah. It's a long game, but Harvest Park, end goal is to have orchards where community members can go out, pick apples, and eat. And I just think it's such a great concept. And so we're not there at the orchard stage yet. We're in its infancy, but nevertheless, there's good energy out there. Last Friday on April 18th, I came down and helped in the downtown cleanup along with about 40 city staff and some other community members, and walked around downtown and picked up things to try to beautify downtown and prep for Jazz Fest and just kind of and ready for spring. And then right before this, that's one reason why I was just a bit late. I was just right up the street for Art Ability, which was put on by the Idaho Center of Disabilities and Human Development, showcasing art made by those with developmental disabilities, and it was so inspiring. It was awesome, actually, and just really supportive of like community endeavors that encourage and create space for all people to thrive, especially in their artistic hopes and artistic expression. It's pretty awesome. And then this week we have AIC district meeting on Wednesday, followed that night by a bridge event at the University of Idaho, where a handful of us are going to be speaking on a panel.
Do we know where at the University of Idaho?
The Pittman Center.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then on Friday night, there's the chamber dinner auction. I'm unsure about the time, but
Doors open 5:30, silent auction also starts then, and I want to say live auction starts at 6:30.
boom. There we go.
That's about right.
There we go. So, yeah, it's been busy couple weeks since last council, but love the work and always happy to dig in. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I forgot one thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Last Thursday, I had the sincere joy of being able to be interviewed by a student on campus who was compiling an oral history of the farmers market and the Farmers Market Commission. It was wonderful. An hour flew by, and it was a retrospective of, from when we first started the commission and how we got out of the parking lot and onto Main Street, and then what happens every homecoming. And it honestly, there were moments I was emotional about how important this is to our community, and just so proud of what we've managed to do. So and then this will actually be part of the oral history that stays in the library way past me in my lifetime. So I thought that was awesome. Thank you for letting me jump in.
Gina, if you catch wind of like when that's published or written about, will you let us all know so
Absolutely.
we can check it out? Thanks.
Haley.
So yeah, I just have a few things. Police Basin Aquifer Committee, or PBAC, met on the third Thursday, whatever date that was. I've kind of lost count of numbers anymore. We got a presentation from U of I faculty who is studying the Wanapum and
Grand Ronde
aquifer replenishment rates, refill rates. And it was a smidge too technical for my wee non-technical brain. But the gist is and hopefully I will fact check myself with Tyler on this if this is the fair takeaway, that it is not replenishing like we need it to. Shocking no one. Smart Transit met on the third Wednesday of the month, whatever date that was. It was also the same day that the State Board of Education was meeting. So I know Sandra was struggling a few things there with our big kid jobs. Smart Transit, no super significant updates other than the thing I'm most happy about is Route Match, which was the contract we were using to do the in-house dispatch, is gone.
Hallelujah.
Which means we are so happy with what we've been getting with Passio with the live interface and tracking and notifications. And the other fun update is social media is back up and live for Smart Transit. However, Passio still is the most reliable, like, push notification for bus closures or shifting or service adjustments. Yeah, we're moving and shaking. And they had a shred party. They were able to get through like 20 years of files that we had been saving for really not super sure why, after some documentation checking. So that was great. And Casey bought the staff pizza and stuff, and there was a big shred party. I'm looking at Lori because lots of boxes of files. Yep, AIC Wednesday, the Association of Idaho Cities, where we will hear about all the things that we can no longer do as a city after the Idaho State legislation passed, and where Dave Siney died now. And yeah, attend a little bit of the State Board of Education meetings, just to be a fly on the wall. And Bryce and I are both donating cakes to the Moscow Chamber auction. So I don't think we're going to get to 1,700 because we did not.
I think we're lucky if we get $17.
Well, I hope so. It's for a good cause. It's not for building a house, but we also did not make them. They will be from Goose House
Yeah, exactly.
Bakery
Yeah.
and from Clamorous Cicada, but we'll hope to see you guys on Saturday
Friday.
at the auction.
Friday, isn't it?
That's what I meant. Friday at the auction.
Friday.
Sorry, Mayor, back to you.
Yep, exactly. So you'd be surprised how much some of those cakes go for.
I know.
Don't count yourself out.
I do think that part of the draw, though, for Julia was that it was Julia's homemade cake, and I can't compete with that.
Goose House is pretty.
We'll see. We'll see.
Okay, I attended the North Idaho Mayor's meeting up in Coeur d'Alene last week. It was populated by mayors from cities large and small. Had Smelterville and Old Town there, among other small ones. Plummer was there. And then Sandpoint, Rathdrum, Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, Lewiston, Moscow. Anyway, it was good interchange of ideas, and a little bit of hollering about the legislature went on, so it was rewarding to that end. Anyway, good meeting about how much in common we all have going on at the moment. Went out and had an initial tour of the new Home Depot out behind the mall. Fabulous view from their parking lot, and they are going to be starting to stock the place up here pretty quickly. And their opening the ribbon cutting will be on the 21st of May at 4 p.m. And then they will be open the subsequent days. So they've started hiring and stocking pretty much. Went out and delivered a presentation to the Board of Realtors earlier late last week, about issues surrounding housing costs, affordable housing, what's going on with property taxes, things like that at their recent board meeting, and good questions that they had. And also this Saturday, the 26th, from 11 to 3, out at the new airport terminal, there's a presentation of how the airport works. You can get a look behind the facilities. They'll have some of the equipment hauled out into the parking lot, including the gargantuan equipment they use to move snow. They'll have the fire engines out there in the parking lot, activities for families, and also a look into the airport's planning for the next 20 years in their strategic plan that goes on out there. So this is also to get feedback from the public about what's important to them for what's going on at the airport. And also went out also to the Oasis fundraiser. I found 2 eggs with beer tokens in them.
Nice.
The beer tokens don't exist anymore. And Shattuck makes some good beer, so give them a try.
Nice.
Anything from staff, Bill?
Nothing for staff this evening.
Okay. So, Council, remember AIC coming up here?
At Best Western?
Yep, 9 o'clock.
Good stuff.
So,
Thank you, Lori, for registering
okay.
us.
I move we adjourn.
Thank you.
So moved.
Second, third.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.